Atlantis, echoes beneath the sea for over 2,000 years. One name has captured the human imagination like no other: Atlantis. This legendary civilization, first described by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, continues to fascinate scholars, explorers, and dreamers around the world. Tonight, we'll explore the story of Atlantis from every angle, examining Plato's original accounts, investigating the historical context that may have inspired his tale, and following the countless expeditions that have searched for this lost paradise beneath the waves. Was Atlantis a real place, lost to some ancient catastrophe? Was it Plato's philosophical allegory, designed to illustrate the dangers of hubris and corruption? As we journey through this mystery together, we'll discover that the search for Atlantis has revealed far more than anyone expected. Not just about ancient civilizations, but about our deepest human desires for perfection, our fears of loss, and our eternal hope that somewhere, somehow, paradise might actually exist. The story begins in ancient Athens, in the mind of one of history's greatest thinkers, around 360 BCE. In his dialogues Timaeus and Creatus, Plato introduced the world to Atlantis, but he didn't present it as fiction. According to Plato, this was a true story, passed down through generations from the great Athenian statesman Solon, who had learned it from Egyptian priests during his travels. The priests, Plato claimed, had ancient records dating back 9,000 years before Solon's time, making Atlantis a civilization that would have flourished around 9,600 BCE. At the end of the last ice age, Plato's description was remarkably detailed. Atlantis was located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar, suggesting a landmass of enormous proportions in the Atlantic Ocean. The civilization itself was a marvel of engineering and social organization. At its heart lay a great city built on a circular island surrounded by alternating rings of land and water. The central island, according to Plato, housed a magnificent palace and temple dedicated to Poseidon, the sea god, who was said to be the ancestor of all Atlantean kings. This temple was covered in silver and gold, with intricate decorations that caught and reflected light like the surface of the sea itself. What made Plato's account so compelling wasn't just the grandeur he described, but the specificity of details. He wrote about their government structure, 10 kings ruling different regions, all descended from Poseidon's 10 sons. He described their military might. They controlled not just their own island, but parts of Europe and Africa as well. But perhaps most intriguingly, Plato described their downfall. The Atlanteans, he wrote, had become corrupted by their wealth and power. They grew greedy and aggressive, attempting to conquer Athens and Egypt. It was then that the gods intervened, sending earthquakes and floods that destroyed Atlantis in a single day and night, leaving nothing but impassable muddy seas where the great island once stood. Modern scholars continue to debate whether Plato intended this as literal history or as an allegory for the ideal state and its potential corruption. What remains undeniable is the power of his vision, detailed enough to seem real, grand enough to inspire wonder, and tragic enough to touch something deep in the human heart. To understand Atlantis, we must first understand the world in which Plato lived and wrote. 4th century Athens was a cosmopolitan center where stories, knowledge, and artifacts flowed in from across the Mediterranean and beyond. Plato would have been familiar with accounts of great floods from various cultures, The story of a worldwide deluge appears not only in Greek mythology, but in the traditions of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and many other ancient civilizations. The Epic of Gilgamesh, written over 1,000 years before Plato's time, tells of a great flood that destroyed the world, with only a few survivors escaping on a great boat, which had flourished and then mysteriously collapsed around 1,100 years before his birth. The Minoans were sophisticated seafarers with a complex palace culture, advanced art, and what appeared to be a peaceful, prosperous society. One of the largest in recorded history, would have sent tsunamis racing across the Mediterranean and covered vast areas in volcanic ash. Sudden destruction are striking enough that many scholars believe the Minoan catastrophe may have been one source of inspiration for his tale. Plato might also have heard stories from Egyptian sources about the Sea Peoples, mysterious maritime raiders who attacked Egypt and other Mediterranean civilizations around 1200 BCE, then vanished from history as suddenly as they had appeared. Some theories suggest these sea peoples came from advanced maritime civilizations that had been displaced by natural disasters. But Plato's genius lay not just in possibly weaving together these historical fragments, but in creating something that transcended its sources. Whether he was recording ancient memories or crafting a philosophical parable, he created a story that would outlive his own civilization and continue to inspire wonder 24 centuries later. The question remains, among all these possible inspirations, might there be a grain of literal truth about a real, advanced civilization that was lost to some ancient catastrophe? The modern search for Atlantis began in earnest during the Renaissance, when European explorers rediscovered Plato's writings and began to wonder if this lost civilization might actually be found. Christopher Columbus himself believed he might encounter Atlantis during his voyage to the New World in the 16th and 17th centuries. As European maps expanded to include the Americas, many scholars speculated that these newly discovered continents might be remnants of Atlantis. The advanced civilizations of the Aztecs and Incas, with their sophisticated architecture and knowledge of astronomy, seemed to some observers like exactly the kind of advanced culture Plato had described. But it was in the 19th century that Atlantis hunting truly became a passion. Ignatius Donnelly, an American politician and amateur archaeologist, published Atlantis, the Antediluvian World, in 1882. This influential book argued that similarities between ancient civilizations around the world, from pyramid building to flood myths, could only be explained by their common origin in Atlantis. Donnelly's work was filled with what seemed like compelling evidence. He pointed out that ancient Egyptians and Americans both mummified their dead, that cultures separated by oceans both built pyramids, and that flood legends appeared in traditions worldwide. To Donnelly, these similarities suggested that survivors of Atlantis had spread across the globe, carrying their knowledge and customs to seed new civilizations. While modern archaeology has found other explanations for these similarities, Donnelly's book sparked a worldwide fascination with Atlantis that continues today. His work inspired countless expeditions and investigations, each seeking to uncover physical proof of Plato's lost civilization. Some searchers looked to the Mediterranean, investigating underwater ruins off the coasts of Greece and Turkey. Others explored the Atlantic, searching for evidence of sunken land masses. Still others looked to existing civilizations, wondering if ancient Egypt, the Indus Valley culture, or the megalithic builders of Western Europe might represent survivors or descendants of Atlantean refugees. Each expedition, whether successful or not, added to our knowledge of ancient civilizations and underwater archaeology. The search for Atlantis became a catalyst for genuine scientific discovery, even when it didn't uncover the specific civilization being sought. The development of modern underwater archaeology and deep-sea exploration technology has revolutionized the search for lost civilizations. Today's Atlantis hunters have tools that previous generations could only dream of: satellite imaging, deep-sea submersibles, ground-penetrating radar, and sonar systems capable of mapping the ocean floor in extraordinary detail. These technologies have revealed that the ocean floors are far from empty. Underwater mountain ranges, vast plains, and deep valleys create landscapes as varied as anything on dry land. More importantly for Atlantis researchers, the sea level has changed dramatically throughout human history. During the last ice age, which ended around 11,000 years ago, sea levels were approximately 400 feet lower than they are today. Vast areas that are now underwater were once dry land, potentially supporting human civilizations. As the ice sheets melted, these areas were gradually flooded, forcing coastal populations to retreat to higher ground. This process wasn't always gradual. Geological evidence suggests that in some cases, the rising seas broke through natural barriers catastrophically, flooding enormous areas in relatively short periods. The formation of the Black Sea, for instance, may have resulted from such a catastrophic flood around 5,600 BCE, when rising Mediterranean waters burst through what is now the Bosporus Strait. Marine archaeologists have discovered numerous underwater sites that were once on dry land. Off the coast of India, sonar has revealed what appeared to be the remains of ancient cities, now submerged beneath hundreds of feet of water. Similar discoveries have been made in the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, and other seas around the world. One of the most intriguing recent discoveries has been the identification of underwater structures that seem too regular, too geometric, to be natural formations. Off the coast of Japan, the Yonaguni Monument appears to be a massive stepped pyramid, complete with terraces, ramps, and what look like carved symbols. While geologists debate whether this structure is natural or artificial, it demonstrates that the ocean floors may hold surprises that challenge our understanding of ancient human capabilities. Similarly, off the coast of Cuba, sonar has identified what appear to be massive stone structures at depths of over 2,000 feet, far too deep to have been built by humans with known ancient technology, yet too regular to be dismissed as natural formations. These discoveries don't prove the existence of Atlantis, but they do suggest that human civilizations may have achieved greater sophistication in the distant past than previously believed, and that evidence of these achievements may now lie beneath the waves. Of all the proposed locations for Atlantis, none has captured scientific attention quite like Santorini, the Greek island that was once known as Thera. Here, beneath layers of volcanic ash, archaeologists have uncovered what may be the most spectacular Bronze Age civilization ever discovered, and one that was destroyed in a single day by one of the most violent volcanic eruptions in human history. The story begins around 3,600 years ago, when Thera was not the crescent-shaped island we see today, but a large, round island with a thriving civilization at its center. The people who lived there, closely related to the Minoans of Crete, had created a sophisticated society with advanced architecture, beautiful art, and extensive trade networks throughout the Mediterranean. The city of Akrotiri, buried and preserved by volcanic ash, much like Pompeii, gives us an intimate glimpse into this lost world. The buildings were multi-story structures with sophisticated plumbing systems, including hot and cold running water and flush toilets, luxuries that wouldn't reappear in Europe for thousands of years. The walls of Akrotiri were decorated with some of the most beautiful frescoes ever discovered, depicting scenes of daily life, religious ceremonies, and the natural world. One famous fresco shows a fleet of ships in a grand procession, suggesting a people comfortable with sea travel and possibly naval power. But what makes Akrotiri truly remarkable is what it tells us about the final day of this civilization. Archaeological evidence suggests that the inhabitants had advance warning of the coming catastrophe, earthquakes, that prompted them to begin evacuating their city. This explains why so few human remains have been found in the ruins, unlike at Pompeii, where people were caught by surprise. The eruption that destroyed Thera was one of the largest in recorded history, ejecting an estimated 24 cubic miles of volcanic material into the atmosphere. The explosion was so powerful it could be heard across the Mediterranean, and the tsunamis it generated would have devastated coastal civilizations throughout the region. The parallels to Plato's description of Atlantis are striking. Like Atlantis, Thera was a circular island with a sophisticated maritime civilization. Like Atlantis, it was destroyed in a single day by earthquakes and floods. Like Atlantis, it disappeared beneath the waves. In this case, when the center of the island collapsed into the sea, creating the caldera that exists today. Some scholars believe that memories of this catastrophe, passed down through generations of oral tradition, may have eventually reached Egypt, and from there influenced the stories that Plato claimed to have received from Egyptian priests. Whether or not Thera was the real Atlantis, its discovery proves that advanced civilizations can indeed vanish suddenly and completely, leaving only fragments for future generations to puzzle over. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the Atlantis story isn't whether it was real or fictional, but why it has maintained such a powerful hold on human imagination for over 2 millennia. What is it about this tale of a lost paradise that speaks so deeply to people across cultures and centuries? Psychologists and anthropologists suggest that Atlantis fulfills several deep human needs. First, it represents our longing for perfection, a society that had achieved everything we still struggle toward: advanced technology, wise governance, harmony with nature, and prosperity without poverty. The story also speaks to our fear of loss and impermanence. In describing a perfect civilization that was destroyed by its own hubris, Plato created a powerful metaphor for the fragility of all human achievement. Every culture has experienced loss, of cities to natural disasters, of civilizations to war or environmental change, of knowledge to the passage of time. Atlantis serves as a canvas onto which each generation can project its own hopes and fears. For Renaissance explorers, it represented the possibility of discovering new worlds filled with ancient wisdom. For 19th century scholars, it explained the similarities between ancient cultures in an age before global communication was understood. For modern environmentalists, it serves as a warning about the consequences of environmental destruction. The search for Atlantis has also revealed something profound about human nature: our persistent belief that somewhere, somehow, there must be more than what we can see. This same impulse drives our exploration of space, our investigation of consciousness, and our endless quest to understand our place in the universe. Interestingly, every culture seems to have its own version of Atlantis, a golden age when things were better, wiser, more harmonious than they are now. The Hindus speak of previous ages when humans lived for thousands of years and possessed great spiritual powers. The Chinese tell of ancient emperors who ruled in perfect harmony with heaven and earth. Indigenous peoples around the world have stories of times when animals could speak and humans possessed magical abilities. These stories serve a psychological function beyond mere entertainment. They remind us that human potential might be greater than what we currently achieve. They suggest that what we consider impossible might actually be possible, that what we consider lost might someday be found again. In this sense, Atlantis isn't just about the past, it's about the future. It represents not just what we might have lost, but what we might still achieve. As our journey through the mystery of Atlantis comes to an end, we're left not with definitive answers, but with something perhaps more valuable: questions that continue to inspire exploration and discovery. The search for Atlantis has led to genuine archaeological discoveries that have expanded our understanding of ancient civilizations. The underwater cities found off the coasts of India and Japan, the sophisticated Bronze Age civilization of Santorini, the advanced engineering of ancient Egypt and South America. All of these discoveries remind us that our ancestors were far more capable than we often assume. Modern technology continues to reveal new mysteries beneath the oceans. Satellite imagery and deep-sea sonar regularly identify unusual formations on the ocean floor. Each new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle of human history, even if it doesn't provide the final answer to the Atlantis mystery. But perhaps the most important thing Atlantis teaches us is that the human spirit of exploration and wonder is itself precious and worth preserving. In a world increasingly focused on the practical and immediate, the Atlantis story reminds us to look beyond the horizon, to ask what if, to imagine possibilities beyond our current reality. Whether Plato was recording ancient history or crafting philosophical allegory, he created something that has inspired countless expeditions, scientific investigations, and moments of pure wonder. The search for Atlantis has taken us to the bottom of the ocean and the heights of human imagination. And in the end, perhaps that's enough. Perhaps the real Atlantis isn't a place at all, but a state of mind, the belief that somewhere out there, or deep within ourselves, lies the potential for something better, wiser, more beautiful than what we've achieved so far. As you drift off to sleep tonight, let yourself wonder about the mysteries that still surround us, in our vast oceans, in our ancient past, in the endless expanse of space, and in the depths of human consciousness. Countless wonders wait to be discovered. The search for Atlantis continues, and in continuing, it keeps alive something essential to the human spirit, the certainty that there is always more to discover, always another horizon to explore, always another dream to pursue. Sweet dreams, fellow explorer. Tomorrow, new mysteries await.